That's the thing that I would like to say more about your question on conformation and different breeds and suitability for a riding horse. If we're looking at Clydesdales, and there's a lot of Clydesdale crosses in Australia, and some of them are very beautiful. What is the weakness of a Clydesdale? It's often a little bit weak through the pastern, and they often also have very short, like the draft horses tend to have, and short pelvis, which makes them a little bit susceptible to lumbar issues and creating roadback. And because it takes a lot of time to get that thoracic sling strong enough to carry well enough, and if the rider or the trainer is pushing them too fast, too hard, the feet come with that, because the feet in itself, to have the pancake feet, is also just poor suspension. So maybe they're born with that because genetically they don't have strong feet, but I think a big part of it is that they are just having a lot of weight bearing on weak angles, and then it really comes down into the feet. A horse with poor digital cushion, or even navicular disease, like people think that a horse is like, the navicular disease can also just come about from very poor suspension and just impact into the legs all the time, and over time creating huge issues. Even fracturing of the joint is so common, and really sad to see when you're looking at dissections on the amount of horses that are having hair fractures to the front legs because the suspension system is not working properly. Maybe large surface area for pulling power of the feet. I think you have to look at the soil as well, of where the horses were originally bred. When you're looking at the breed of horses and the feet that they have, what was the soil? What was the ground of where they've been bred? And you definitely find huge differences between European horses and Northern European horses. When we're looking to the south, if you're looking at desert horses compared to mushy swamp areas, and what the type of feet look like is very different. I think a lot of the trouble with things like that in recent breeding is just by mistake. Breed a type of horse that you like, but not necessarily aware of the structure of carrying, and therefore not necessarily aware of the purpose of what you do to the horse as you're breeding this particular type because it looks pretty, then you can just get all sorts of flaws. We all are aware of malformation issues. Nobody thought, let's just breed a horse that's malformed. People were looking for something that looked really pretty and seemed to have a different movement than other horses, maybe a winning movement when we're talking about thoroughbreds, but also in dressage horses, like these extravagant movements that are really dysfunctional. But if you don't understand the system of carriage, and then you think that looks very pretty, it's just that it's not sustainable. I like to say, if it is for my students, then of course I have some people are professionals in dressage, or some professionals in show jumping or eventing, but overall there's a big part of students that just want to have a really good riding horse that they can have for a long time. They might want to go into the highest levels of dressage, but then look for something that can also be an all-rounder. That's sound. And if you want to look for an all-rounder, then you look for a square model with good angles. 45-degree angle of the shoulder is very suitable, good angle of the pelvis, length of pelvis, good top line and all of that, and good lumbar development. That's what you're looking for. And for the rest, you can look for what you find pretty in color and head shape and all of that. That's just personal preference. I did a little bit. So I talked briefly about the Lustano. Iberian breeds are still often very close to the frame of wool horses. And so for me, they are usually very suitable. And then you find the individuals in there that are already bred towards a purpose. So in the Iberians, mostly to the dressage things. And if I have a professional dressage rider that is looking for a horse, then I would look for a slightly longer angle through the shoulder, for example, and even a little bit more room through the gullet, and just that kind of thing, leaving a little bit longer in the pelvis so that we can get those extravagant movements. But it still has to stay in its measurements of soundness. So I think that this is what we're going to stay with on that topic.